All right, everyone. Hope everyone's doing all right. Thanks for joining. Uh, Happy Sunday, right? So, Nick here, VP of Product at VPS. Wanted to follow up. We had a short space a couple days ago, and one of our guests was not able to make it due to a scheduling conflict. So, after getting back on his schedule, we wanted to get everybody together and get an opportunity to talk. Um, So I'll kick it off with just kind of a brief introduction. We'll talk through some of, VPS AI stuff just for those of you who might be first-time listeners. And then I'm going to pass it over to Thomas and sort of let him talk through things, and let him reach out to the community. So again, VPS AI, really what we're about is, thrilled to have everyone. And really, our mission is to revolutionize high performance computing by making GPU powered VPSs accessible and affordable. So, VPS virtual private server. We've released our MVP, as I spoke about on the most recent space. That's out. We've had a couple hundred people utilizing the product. It's got some great feedback so far. You can find access to that DApp through our website. I have links through Twitter. So, definitely excited to have that out. Getting real world feedback, as I mentioned, it's super important to have users actually using it. So with instrumentation and tracking session usage, seeing what type of compute people are requesting, we're able to better understand user behavior and what people need from the product, and are working on folding that back into our product roadmap. So as I mentioned last week, this is just the first version of our product. Working through the roadmap and looking at future functionality, ways to make it more useful, ways to build and expand the ecosystem, and really kind of ride the wave of cloud computing, and especially decentralized cloud computing, and providing that access to people who otherwise may not have it. And so that's kind of another good segue too into really what VPS is about. For us, it's extremely important to provide these types of resources and this access to underserved people out there. And so plenty of people don't have access to a bank or a credit card. And so getting access to this type of compute and this technology is a lot harder. And so by joining the VPS AI community and plugging into our ecosystem, you can get access to technology-enabled compute, decentralized compute that allows you to do anything from spinning up a website to, deploying containerized nodes, utilizing it for a variety of use cases. And we're able to then kind of provide that connection to that infrastructure through our layer of innovation on top of partners like Pete and Kudos, and some of the infrastructure they've provided for the project. And then other infrastructure partners that allows us to really take advantage of underutilized compute out there, and then offer you and users extremely competitive pricing and access for that. And I shared some of those numbers. I think we sent a couple of the infographics before to show how we compare to something like an Azure and AWS, Google Cloud. So extremely competitive pricing. And then we're working to, again, expand the technology and the layer of innovation on top of that infrastructure to make it even easier to use, such that you don't need a PhD in computer science to be able to spend these or take advantage of these types of opportunities. And then we're also looking to partner, as I mentioned during the last space, and win some larger enterprise clients. So researchers, other projects that are working on their own chains, they need to spin up validators, they need compute for Web3 projects. And we're able to provide those services such that they can focus on the value their products add, and leave some of the infrastructure and handling and orchestration of the compute up to us. And so, kind of from a value proposition, what VPS is really about is enabling access to the technology for people who otherwise may not have it, but then also being extremely price competitive, such that other projects, other startups, other companies that are looking to scale and expand out have access to extremely reliable, robust, with high uptime services to run and power their businesses on. So let me see. I think see if we've got a request here. Okay, we'll get back to that. So yeah, super excited to have Thomas joining us today. Thomas, I think you're able to speak. Let's see. Might need to get him connected. All right, I think I got you.
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today, and pleasure to now be finally a part of the VPS ecosystem. So thanks, Nick, and thanks to the team at VPS again. Again, just from what Nick was preaching there, really, really cool stuff that I've also just been learning about VPS over the past few weeks, and really how we're going to be able to help integrate that into so many more companies and so many more ecosystems. Before I kind of go ahead and give you guys kind of an overview of the plan we have for VPS and with VPS, I want to kind of give you a bit of context about what I do and what my company NADMAH does. Very simply, me and my co-founder have always been networkers. We've always liked to build network. We've always liked to help people on that respect. And we've always been doing this for like the past 4 years. So when it comes to networking, we've been working with projects for our consultancy firm, for our incubator, for investments. But this also involves us working with the service providers, right? So we're talking about working with the chains, working with the investors, working with the ecosystems to help these projects build, whether it's on top of these blockchains, whether it's with them, so they can provide more value. And we always believe in when you're building partnerships, you should always provide value first. You should get recognized for that value. And that should be what forms your long-term partnership. And I think that's also true with VPS, with some of the partnerships that they're already forming, like Kudos, like Shivarium, like Scale. These are partnerships that one can be helped on a level, for example, like Scale with, integrating for their projects, but also in the long-term perspective. So our main thing coming in with NADMAH is to basically help on the ecosystem growth, not only when it comes to clients, because of course, with our network, with working with Avalanche, with Base, Solana, IOST, Tyco, and a lot of the new blockchains as well, that kind of gives us an easy way on the integration perspective. But we also want to help VPS to build on a larger scale. So we want to help them integrate not only with ecosystems and blockchains, but also with their projects. Because looking at it from the blockchains we've worked with and that we've helped integrate projects, over the past few years, we have seen a lot of problems with integrations of AWS software. Everyone's using Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, but it's not Web3 friendly, it's not DeFi friendly, and it's also very costly for a lot of these early stage projects that are trying to just get off the ground. And I think that kind of from the accessibility standpoint, from the affordability standpoint, is why VPS is also going to be super powerful for those projects, but also on the node perspective for the blockchains themselves. So that's kind of the just NADMAH's perspective on VPS and how we really want to come in on that side. But yeah, I think maybe Nick, we can start off with some questions like that you have also for NADMAH. And then I'd love to obviously ask you guys some questions as well from our perspective.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and kick things off? I do a lot of talking on these, so it's nice to have a guest on to chat with.
100%, Nick. So I think my first question would be, what are the steps needed for VPS to integrate into a product?
Yeah, so I'd say one thing, right, is obviously working with the team, right? You kind of have the concept of a solutions engineer and somebody who can figure that out. With Byte, our CTO, the dude is exceptionally smart and talented as a solutions architect and engineer, and so we want to obviously provide like that level of service and contact to other projects, right? In the same way that we've gotten a lot of help throughout this process to get our MVP out and into the state that it is. It's nice to work with other competent teams, and so we want like another project to feel that from us. And I'd say beyond that, from like a technology standpoint, um, that's really, it kind of comes down to the requirements of that other project or the product. We obviously have access to a lot of different kind of compute clusters, configurations. We can do like some solutions engineering. And so I think just working with the team, understanding their requirements, and then us working to kind of put together something to help out. And then as we understand those use cases more often, and we look to get maybe some like commonality or things that we can integrate within the product directly, we could look at enhancing the product such that like those types of configurations are more easy to spin up in the future.
Yeah, amazing. Makes perfect sense. Okay, and on the other side of that, when it comes to, for example, for blockchains integrating nodes, so I know that like you guys obviously have already done this with Shibarium, and something interesting also is with us connecting you guys with Tyco from our network, as they have their mainnet launch in a few days. So when it comes to like early stage blockchains integrating VPS AI's nodes, do you think that's something that could be very high potential, like in the coming years?
Yeah, absolutely. A common use case that I've spoken to a couple of times has been the ability to like spin up different types of nodes for a blockchain. An example could be like a validator. So it requires a pretty hefty configuration and knowledge of how to set that up. And so part of what our technology can enable, and then also sort of working with the team, is how do we make that a lot easier for the end user? Again, what's really the value add that your project or that you as like a company are adding? And that's really where you want to focus. And so, those other chains, unless they're maybe differentiating on something to do with, speed or performance or something, then they probably have other things they're really focused on. And so by offloading some of that to us, I think it allows them to really focus on their value add, and then allows us to work with those types of clients, figure out what they need, and then essentially integrate with our nodes like that. And so we can handle some of that, the heavy lifting from an infrastructure standpoint for them.
Yeah, and I think that makes perfect sense, because not only can you guys integrate different types of nodes with early stage blockchains, but also with later stage. Because as I'm sure we know, there's hundreds of thousands of layer twos coming into the space. Obviously, some are better than others, but they all need nodes on a host of different levels. And the same goes for blockchains that are in their later stages, right? You're talking with like Avalanche, Base, Solana. These teams still need support on that retrospect. And of course, they still need support for their projects as well. So yeah, when it comes to, let's say, VPS's ideal client, I think something always we think of is like the difference between a partner and a client, because obviously there's a very fine line there. And for us, a partner is someone who provides value to you and back to you. So it's always like a circle of life type situation in that aspect. But I want to ask, for VPS, what is really your guys' differentiating factors between a partner and a client?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I was listening to you speak earlier, and you kind of talked about it, and something you said I really resonated with me, which is that, in a good partnership, you demonstrate value first. And I think that really rings true to me. From a partnership standpoint, or just like strict definition, typically a client's somebody who's like paying us for something. And so we're providing a good or service to, a customer and or client. Whereas a partner, there's some type of like mutually beneficial arrangement that you can have. And so, we provide value to them, they provide value to us. Um, it's two businesses typically, right? And where you're like buying a good or service from the other business. So there's an opportunity to co-market, to bring awareness of the product in the space. And then, typically some type of exchange where, hey, if can we, and I guess to be fair too, is you could say, hey, can we get a discount on your good or service in exchange for promoting it on our platform or something like that, right? And that could be kind of a partnership agreement. yeah, I think in general, what makes a good partner, it's like you said, is kind of an alignment of values and maybe how you approach business to an extent. And then obviously some overlap in terms of like strategic needs. So, where we are from a VPS standpoint, we're kind of in a customer acquisition state. So the more kind of top of funnel exposure that we can get for the product, whether or not that's like direct to consumer, so sort of that B2C play, or we can, identify some other teams or projects that are more kind of what you consider like an enterprise client, and get connected with them. So I think exposure is super important from like these early partnerships. And then looking at kind of where you can maybe get, integrate technology from somebody else, right, to strengthen your value proposition. So kind of long-winded answer of I think it very much depends on what you're looking for. Customer growth is super important for us right now. So that certainly helps.
Yeah. No, very perfectly answered. I think everything that you said really leads back to one word, which is value, right? And I think that's always with a partnership, it's getting something that you're looking for and providing something that they need, which is like always the question we ask our partners, which is what do you need? Because otherwise you're not going to be getting good value back if you're not giving them anything in return. And yeah, I think definitely, like, especially when it comes to working with these bigger blockchains that VPS is going to be integrating with, to start like Scale, Tyco, that there's so much potential there, not only for marketing, because of course VPS has a growing community that's super active, and so do these blockchains, because, especially like you look at Scale, they've got such an active community, such an active team, and they're just trying to build the same as you guys. So it's really looking towards the marketing perspective. You're going to be building exposure, building growth, and of course, through that, bringing in users, right? Which, as you said, being the main thing looking at client and customer acquisition, is that you're going to actually be lowering that cost dramatically with these partnerships. And of course, the other benefit with a partnership is you're bringing in referrals to each other. So you're bringing in clients, you're bringing in revenue, which from a business perspective is also the true meaning of a partnership. So I think that's perfectly answered on my side. I think something else I'm really interested in, because of course, we speak a lot about accessibility, affordability, VPS's software, and just kind of how it can be integrated. But aside from those 2 points, so aside from how affordable it is, how accessible and easy to integrate it is, what other aspects of VPS's tech, VPS's GPUs are better than the competitors?
Oh, sorry, started talking and hadn't unmuted. No, from a tech standpoint, I think something that we've worked to differentiate on is price right now. And as there's we're in a position to be a matchmaker, right? So there's underutilized compute, and it can either sit there making the owner, zero, or they can put that up and kind of go through the platform and basically provide that to people. And so you look at something like what Kudos is doing, and they're also able to essentially grab that and then provide that as a service to us. And so what that allows us to do is pass along that savings to end users. And so I think from a tech standpoint and just having connected that value chain, it allows us to offer very competitive pricing, which is super important when you need to run a lot of these applications. If you want to do something like AI training, the biggest cost is just that compute. And so stitching together that layer of technology, I think is a big differentiator for us, and it's working well so far. And then, as I mentioned a little bit, is looking to potentially spin up some specialized hardware of our own to provide access to GPUs that might be a lot more expensive or harder to access. and starting to provide that, like when we do have somebody, potential partner or a client who wants to work with us that has very specific requirements. And so then that allows us to have a little bit more control over the infrastructure, the pricing, et cetera, and allows us some flexibility in kind of getting that deal closed. So I think sort of both of those aspects of VPS and sort of our tech allow us to differentiate and be competitive.
Beautiful. Amazing. Yeah. So I think from my end, like when it comes to integrating with partners and really what we can build with VPS, that's super clear to me. Again, our long-term plan is to be able to integrate VPS's tech and community, not only with all of our project partners, but also with all of our ecosystem partners. So, with over 700 portfolio projects, it's super, super good to have VPS on board, to be able to provide that tech to so many people. And yeah, I think like from my side, all questions are answered. But Nick, I would love if you have any questions for me as well. Otherwise, I can also give a full run through of how we plan to integrate on that level.
Yeah, I just curious. You guys provide a lot of advice, guidance, mentorship to projects and founders. What is something that I think, in working with a lot of these different projects that you've seen across the space that, kind of gets you still excited about working in it?
Always a good question, man. Always a good question. I think working in the space now, it gives you a different perspective of the projects you work with. Like we've worked with so many different companies in DeFi, in GameFi, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of blockchains. Even at the moment, we're working with 4 different L2s, helping to build their ecosystems. So I think what really excites me about the space is people that are actually building tech or actually building products to help people grow in the space. I think when we look at blockchain, when we look at Web3, there's so many copycats, so many projects that are the same in terms of their value offering, whether it's gaming, whether it's blockchains. And that really dilutes the space. I think it makes people not want to invest, not want to care. And you see that because even recently I was just in Istanbul for an event. And at that event, I met 60 L2 blockchains. Now, if you were to ask me to differentiate between any of them, I couldn't tell you the difference. And that kind of makes me sad about the space in that respect. But what excites me is projects like VPS that are actually coming in to change the tech and improve the tech. Because I think also when we look at blockchains, the tech is traditionally flawed. And especially with blockchain moving more towards being centralized, it's really going to change. And this was something I was speaking on a lot in Istanbul as well, was, the new regulations, the new centralization coming into Web3, and how it's kind of improving the quality of the projects. So I think that's kind of a very brief way to say what I'm looking for in the space at the moment, personally. But I also think, because we also invest into projects, that there's a lot of interesting projects coming out that have a lot of growth potential compared to, let's say, the last wave. And, you're looking at projects that have come out during the bear market and are now actually being able to thrive just due to the fact that they actually have a good product. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting, again, to always see the different kinds of projects that people come up with. But again, a lot of that is sometimes hidden by just all of the hype and all of the FUD that people see, all of these fake communities, all of these projects that provide no value. So yeah, it's always very interesting. And something additional to add is, NADMAH, we've always been doing tokens, designing tokens, token economies, just stress testing and pushing them to the limit. And recently it's been very hard for us to find tokens with actual utility. And that's another thing that we look for in the market is finding actual usable real world utility within these projects that can help Web 2 or Web 3 users in every respect. But yeah, that's my long answer, Nick.
No, I love that. I mean, I think you're right. I think it is, having been in this space for a while, it is more common than you would think to see projects that raise, talk to you about building something and then never get around to actually building the thing. And they have a litany of excuses as to why. And it's definitely frustrating to be involved with that, and kind of disappointing too, right? Because there's a lot of, people have a lot of great ideas and then just fail to see through on the actual execution of those. And kind of an idea without execution is not worth a whole lot. So, I'm curious too. So for projects that have already launched and are really like looking to scale and grow their ecosystem, how does your consultancy services assist in sort of enhancing their marketing strategy, fundraising efforts? Maybe some examples of how you've helped projects in sort of that post-launch phase achieve growth.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, so of course, like our favorite way to work with projects is on a long-term basis, right? So usually I could give you an example. So this month, we've had 8 clients that we're working with long-term. Now, all of those clients we've had under our belt just for, minimum 8 months. So that's covering post-launch, pre-launch, and of course the launch itself. And we like to approach these projects in a marketing perspective as well. So we always help them with the strategies. We always help them with their campaigns, with the KOLs, execution on that layer as well. And obviously that involves everything on the partnerships and fundraising as well. So when you're looking at post-launch, you're looking at really just maintaining the momentum of a successful launch, whether that's through the token, whether that's through the community. Usually it's both. Usually you're trying to maintain that token, maintain that community to a point where it sustains itself, right? And that's obviously looking at getting the company fully revenue generating, not only through the token, but also through the service they offer. And then obviously getting them the partners, getting them the ecosystem that they need to continue building and being a real sustainable company in that respect. A lot of what we do as well is really focused on metrics. So especially when it comes to marketing, so you're looking at your customer acquisition cost per user. You're looking at your retention rate is something that a lot of Web3 projects just can't retain at all. We've seen projects retain a 0.03% retention rate, which it's insane. Like you're not retaining a single customer. And we've also seen just crazy costs per user. Like, you're talking hundreds to thousands of dollars per user that you're bringing onto your platform. So our main thing is either to completely reduce or mitigate that cost, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through partnerships, and of course fundraising at the same time. So we deal a lot with fundraising for projects. We had some very successful raises over the past few months after our token launched. We helped a company called MetaPro raise about 2.5 mil. We had another AI company as well, Octavia. We helped to raise 3.5. They've just started investing alongside us as well, which is very exciting. And yeah, aside from that, we really just want to, in the future, focus on helping these projects more when it comes to the long term, because a lot of our services do focus on pre-TGE and TGE itself, but that's something we're really trying to fix, especially in fundraising division, helping projects raise larger rounds in their private B, private C after that fact as well, helping with OTC deals. So yeah, we really want to be like a powerhouse in that regard, helping people with everything. And again, we always like to talk about, the transparency and the honesty of a network, because again, our company is 3 people. It's our 2 founders and 1 BD. So we don't ever really outsource to other people unless we need it. So yeah.
It's really impressive, Thomas. I appreciate the rundown.
course.
Can you maybe share like a success story from recent? It's always fun to hear about, another product that's doing well. I am fond of saying there's plenty of pie in the space for everyone, and it's not a zero-sum game. So it's great that other people are doing well, and I think that brings up the, rising tide lifts all boats. So what's a recent project you've worked with that's really crushed it?
Of course. So we have a bunch that we're working with. Again, it's really looking at what kind of project. We've had a
Hmm.
bunch of games recently. For example, one Polyverse that's just raised 2 million. Had one of the very only successful NFT sales, sold out in like 4 seconds. So we have a lot of games that have done very successfully recently, which we're very proud of. We've also had a lot of gaming infrastructure like MetaPro that's done very good recently. They just completely oversold their sale as well. They've raised way more money than they thought they would, oversubscribed about 500K. And ecosystem wise, they're just building really good, with all of the top games in the space. But then there's the other side, which we care about a little bit more, which is the infrastructure projects we're working with. So, for example, one is Silver Fox, which is actually one we plan to integrate with VPS, which is a layer 2 blockchain that's been working crazy with some newfound SDK tech that's just blowing everything out of the water. They've also been building, like VPS, an ecosystem that can integrate projects, additional to being very impressive on the tech side. They've integrated really well to raise funds. They're listed on all of the major exchanges. So we're very, very excited for their launch when they're coming up. We're just getting them the last bit of their funds as well before they can really launch. And yeah, that we've got a few more projects launching in the coming months, as well as a few more that we're continuing to work with post-launch. One of the ones we met with actually in Istanbul was Octavia as well, which I'm sure some of you guys know. So we were Octavia's first advisors as well, helped them raise 3.5 mil. We also helped them just launch their launchpad and excuse me, and also their VC. So yeah, there's a few there, but obviously, we have so many more that we're hoping to work with, and VPS will 100% be one of them.
That's very cool. Thanks for sharing, man. That's always cool to hear about. You mentioned that you wanted to maybe go into a more thorough rundown for what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think at the moment, like the simplest way we can kind of run through it is looking at, the kind of ecosystems that we're trying to get VPS integrated with. Obviously, we've been pushing really hard on Scale side to just get them as a tooling partner and to also integrate into their projects. Again, they have such a great suite of products they're working with, and the same goes for Tyco. Tyco, I think, is a super good opportunity for VPS, not only on the nodes, but also with the products they work with. It's just they're growing so fast. Like their community is really strong. Their just overall look and their overall branding of Tyco is just very, very good, and I think would work very well with VPS. Some of the bigger later stage ones that we're setting up at the moment as well, literally within this week, is looking at Sui, looking at Base, looking at Avalanche. These ones are some very interesting ones that we think would be super, super cool for VPS to integrate with as well. Again, we're very close with the founders of Avalanche and Base. We just finished working with them on a few of their projects. So Avalanche was actually the reason we were just in Turkey. So on that side, very, very interesting. We're also looking to integrate with some layer 2 blockchains. One of them I just mentioned, Silver Fox. There's also another one, which is Boba Network. Obviously, Scale is always there as well. Those three actually are always in the same bubble because Silver Fox, Boba, and Scale are all within the kind of gaming focus L2 blockchains, which is good because they need the tech, they need the community. It's very important for them. And yeah, obviously, aside from that, looking more into some other blockchains that we're sending proposals, like Hedera, like Algorand, and some other ones like iOS2 and Zilliqa that we're trying to integrate with as well. And kind of once we finish, let's say, the first 5 really, really good integrations, once we kind of get those through, I think, the traction from something like Scale and something like Tyco would be massive. Especially if VPS was to integrate before Tyco's launch, it would be something that would be really monumental for Tyco and for VPS. So that's something we really, really want to push to make happen. And I think after that momentum, we can start really onboarding some bigger clients, some bigger partners. And from there, once we kind of nail the blockchains, nail their projects, then we can move on to actually focusing on products that need the tech. This might be some of our clients, some existing projects in the market, focusing on some bigger clients. So, once we gain that momentum, once VPS gets that market share and gets those communities as well, it'll be much easier to leverage that in order to get into some bigger projects, some bigger partnerships, and really go from there. But again, this is it's all like the trial testing phase. So the main thing is for us to basically provide the ecosystems to VPS, for VPS to test on an integration level if it works. And then, of course, they give us feedback. They give feedback to the blockchain. So we can really change how we integrate and change the way that we form these partnerships. So it's the most effective for VPS and their team as well.
No, what you said about key logo accounts really makes sense, right? It's a lot easier when you've successfully integrated with a couple key accounts and sort of have that proof of not only that the team can get it done, but that the tech works and solves another problem, and kind of provides, like you're saying, value, back to that value word for your partners. It's a lot easier to go to other bigger partners and work with them.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty thorough rundown of what we've got going on. Is there anything you wanted to add, or you want to open up and see if anybody has any questions?
I think I'm super, super clear. I think, again, you answered everything that I asked super well, Nick. So I'm very, very happy. And I'm just getting more and more excited about this partnership as we talk. So, yeah, I would love to open up some questions from the audience and kind of see, how they can nail us down in this.
Totally. Yeah, let's see. I'll check our Telegram channel too, because sometimes people will put some messages up. Yeah, if you've got any questions, anybody, just make a request and I can unmute you. You can ask something. And I'll check the thread here. Everybody's still getting their coffee in for the day. All right. Well, quiet group today, but Thomas, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. It's always great to connect by voice. We do a lot of asynchronous work and through Telegram and Slack and WhatsApp and everything. So it's always good to get on and actually have a conversation. So, again, thanks for joining today.
It was my absolute pleasure, Nick. And again, thank you always for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to everything we do together and obviously with this amazing community as well, to see how big and how fast we can truly build VPS.
No, I love that. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll go ahead and shut this down. There's if you guys want to listen to anything or go back through something, we'll post a recording soon, as always. If you have any questions, you know how to find Thomas and I. We're both in the channel. So if you need, reach out to us or anybody on the team if you want to ask any follow-up or any clarifications. And with that, I hope everyone has a great rest of their Sunday, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so
See ya.
much, everyone.
All
Have a
right,
great